Welcome to the Southwest Florida Real Estate Update, hosted by the York Group of Downing Fry Realty. Our show will bring you the most up-to-date information on the local real estate market, presented by leading experts in the field.
Welcome to the Southwest Florida Real Estate Update. I'm Morgan York with the York Group of Downing Fry, and today we're joined with our host Jim York and his guest Donald Ross Jr., President and CEO of Ross Title and Escrow.
Thank you, Morgan, for the introduction. Well, Don, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Jim.
So the people that haven't seen us, which aren't very many, tell them a little bit about yourself.
I'm an attorney here in Naples, been here since the early 80s. My family was here since the 70s. Master's in tax. I'm the attorney for Downing Fry Realty, own Ross Title and Escrow, member of the law firm Ross & Ross. My beloved son Christian is now down here. We do quite a few closings, 8-9 employees, looking to grow. People seem to be happy.
Yeah.
Enjoy what we're doing.
Yeah, you've handled our clients for years, and they've done an excellent job. Yeah. So the topic today of the show is going to be the biggest problems that people faced in 2021. And we're going to start with buyers and sellers.
Sure.
And I think we've done a recap every year of the previous year, so let's start with that.
I would start with, it's 2021, we're still in the COVID era, so we still are wrestling with traveling, viewing, showing, having inspections. And, I know we've said this before, but I think all this stress that we've been under with this terrible pandemic has just affected the way people treat each other.
Right.
And, the lack of face-to-face like you and I are doing right now. I'm got more and more people short, rude, right from the beginning. Not that where I grew up people aren't. I mean, I'm from New England. We're notorious for that sort of thing, but we at least try to save it until after we've tried the nice approach. Try nice first, and then if that doesn't work, then you can always evaluate a person and you see, is this person a bully? And well, unfortunately, they only react to one type of behavior. But managing the emotions of the whole closing process, to me, has been a continuing issue, which, depending upon how the closing evolved, it's either managed by the realtor or myself.
That's true.
Being calm, keeping them calm, telling them when they're out of line, telling them training them on what to expect, things of that sort. But the emotions would probably be number one. Half my job is keeping people relaxed, honest to goodness. I mean, it really is. And it's been exacerbated by COVID.
Well, knowledge also keeps people relaxed.
Yes.
Because, people don't want to feel uncomfortable if they don't know the answers or can't get the answers, and, maybe they, were misinformed or whatever.
Sure.
So that's keeping them calm too. And I know you've done that. We've tried to do that.
Well, I know you
too,
give your clients copies of the contracts. I mean, I do that. Anything you can do to minimize what the new information is when an offer is presented is helpful. And recognizing that people come from different states and do real estate closings quite differently from state to state helps me anyways to take extra care in explaining this is how we do it in this part of Florida. Right. I mean, if you think about it, our NABOR contract, Naples Board of Realtors contract, is only for little Collier County. I mean, the rest of the state of Florida works off other contracts, primarily the FAR contract. So you amplify that by the different states that you and I deal with regularly.
That's right.
I mean, I got enough family doing closings up and down the East Coast that I can assure you that it's done radically different from state to state.
Yeah, it's different. Plus, our contracts are different from our local contract for the state contract.
Oh, sure.
Then you got developers contracts, so it's
about that thick. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's
Sure.
it's knowledge, experience that you really need if they're a buyer or a seller.
Yep.
And, so what major changes have you seen in 2021 that might have changed in 2022? It could be a part of the contract, one of the contracts. We've done shows on that, but one that you can point out the biggest?
I don't know if it's so much a change as, I mean, I just had this, gosh, 15 minutes ago. It's a continuing issue. We have a lot of new realtors out there.
Right.
And God knows, we all started new. I did,
Exactly.
you did, we all do. I mean, I'm still learning things. I'm still looking things up. But there's a lot of confusion over if something's in the multiple listing service, that's automatically part of the contract. And literally, one of the reasons I was 2 minutes late for this event was that we experienced realtor has a situation where there was a special assessment passed, the payments are due past the closing date, and my firm represents the seller, and the buyer's firm is represented by an attorney, so he obviously knows the contract and knows that my seller is responsible for that special assessment under our Naples contract. The statewide contract could be either way depending on what block you check off. But experienced people not knowing things about special assessments, not understanding the finance clause, not understanding the inspection process, going with small deposits.
Right.
Not understanding the significance of signing seller disclosure statement. Who's driving the ship is a biggie. I mean, are you trying to sell real estate according to what some lawyer is telling you, or does the lawyer work for you?
Right.
I mean, I view my role as part of the Jim York team, and if I have somebody call, in many cases I'll call you or I'll call whoever the realtor is and say, I got a call from so-and-so before I answer it. Is there something going on that I don't know about? And there's usually a big, there's a lot of data that can help me better inform or help my client.
That's right, yeah.
The client's usually emotional, and they don't always know what facts are relevant that for me to make, give them good advice.
That's right.
Versus if I'm talking to you, you can strip some of the emotion out of it and tell me the legally pertinent data, so then I can pick up the phone and help my buyer or my seller.
Right.
So, managing the deal, knowing your role, new contract things, FAR bar, and in the neighbor contract, and really not a whole lot. We had changes this year, but nothing too earth-shaking. I know we hit it on a prior show. The big issue we seem to be running in just recently is vacant lot sales by non-resident aliens, so foreign individuals.
Right.
And I don't mean to call them aliens to be insulting. That's how the tax code refers to people who aren't legal residents of the United States. Right. Aliens. So apologize for that.
Well, Don, before we go into our next section here, okay, we're going to talk about agents, what the biggest problems they've faced in 2021. We're going to take a little short break here, and we'll be right back in 1 minute. Thank you.
Thinking of buying or selling a home in Naples, Marco Island, Bonita, or Estero, Florida? Think of the most experienced York Real Estate Group, associated with the #1 brokerage in Southwest Florida, Downing Fry Realty, which produces yearly real estate transactions of over $1 billion. Jim, Michael, and Morgan make up the York Real Estate Group of Downing Fry Realty, with over $275 million in sales transactions, along with offering over 25 combined years' experience in the local market. The Yorks can offer the experience and trust you need in a realtor. Call them today at 239-273-6727 or visit their website at www.naplesyorkrealestate.com.
Looking for a real estate closing agent in Southwest Florida? Ross Title and Escrow has over 25 years experience and has closed over 20,000 residential real estate transactions. Donald Ross Jr., president of Ross Title and Escrow and a practicing attorney in the state of Florida with a degree in taxation, is here to service your needs. Call Mr. Ross or one of our 4 closing agents for a free consultation today.
Welcome back. Well, Don, let's go into this session and talk about real estate agents and what they faced, major problems. putting the deal together?
Again, the same thing, maintaining control of the closing, the emotions. I cannot tell you how many times I've told somebody, it's usually Friday afternoons. I don't know why that is, but it's always Friday afternoons and everything hits the fan, and I'll get a realtor on the phone and I'll tell them this is what you should tell the other side, but then I'll tell them, please don't call them tonight. I can tell, and it could be somebody I'm just talking to for the first time on the telephone. It could be a new realtor. You're making me tense talking to you on the telephone. This is not a good time for you to be talking to anybody. You know, have a good sleep and call so-and-so in the morning. You have to be calm when you're talking to people, because if you're not calm, they're not calm. If you're anxious, they're anxious. So just giving them a breather is a big thing. The other major thing I see with realtors, and it's hard to criticize somebody for trying to fix everything. I mean, the heart is in the right place, but learning how to stay in your lane. You're a realtor. You're licensed to sell real estate. You're not licensed to give legal advice. You're not licensed to look at a repair issue and say, oh yes, that needs new wiring, or that's structurally defective, or that HVAC system needs to be replaced, unless you have a license for it. I mean, I know you have a contracting background, but so you have some expertise in that field. But the good realtor has to realize, and really it applies to lawyers as well, the thing that makes you good, you want to do everything and fix everything for your client, can also hurt you if you go too far. If you purport to do something, or if you lead the client on to think that this is something that they should listen to, when you really have no clue whether this is valid legally. You think it might be valid legally, you start drafting language in the contract. That's a real problem. And the classic example of that, which happens to me probably every single day, is you make an offer, and we have a portion of the Naples Board of Realtors contract that says other terms and conditions. The fill in the blank part, page 10 or 11.
That's right.
I had one today. The seller agrees to replace roof by closing. And I get that all the time. I mean, and that's just an example. And so the roof, obviously, in this case, isn't complete. And I asked the realtor, so what happens if it's not complete? What was discussed? Were there emails? Was there anything? Because it sure as heck isn't in the contract. What step two is the way I put it.
Yeah, exactly.
What happens if the contingency that they wrote in their offer and was accepted by the seller doesn't happen? You need a step two. You need something that says, a couple possibilities. Then the buyer may, in their discretion, extend the closing up to 30 days. And if it's not done by then, can terminate the contract and receive a refund of his deposit. Or the buyer has the right to terminate the contract and receive a refund of his deposit. Or the buyer, may ask for a credit of X. There's no step two in almost any of the contingencies I tend to get. What happens when? So they call me.
And I think, I don't know, I'm not to interrupt you or anything, but, over the years, I've had several other businesses, and, when you look at a contract, I think you should be more focused on the exit strategy than signing the contract. If everything goes good, is fine when you sign a contract because everybody's excited, let's sign, and everything. But I also think you gotta look at, if this doesn't happen, what's the exit strategy? Just like with that roof, what you were just talking about.
What is the exit strategy?
Everything, everything, okay, is fine, but if it doesn't happen, we should be talking about if it doesn't happen, what is the exit strategy, or what do we put in there? Maybe I'm not wording it properly, but you know what I'm trying to say.
You plan your divorce in advance.
Exactly.
In law school,
right.
and this, again, what I said earlier, what makes you good at what you do also might hurt you.
Right.
I mean, all day long, I'm looking for the exit strategy, or I'm planning my divorce in advance. Well, that, in essence, is looking at the glass half empty.
Right.
You know, I just assume that thing's going to go south, and what then?
Right.
And I plan for that. Okay. Yeah. It doesn't work too good when I walk in the door at home.
No,
I got to flip it around after my wife whacks me a few times and say. You know,
I mean, I'm just using it as an example for the deposit. You follow me? And if this doesn't happen, well, you know, your deposit's in jeopardy. You follow me?
And every time we have a conflict with the other side, well, what are our remedies? And then half the time the remedies are, well, you can terminate the contract.
Right.
You know, I mean, I had one where the sale included TVs, and they had pictures as seen on the effective date of the contract. So they switched out the TVs. Yeah. And I'm talking to the buyers, and rightfully so, they're quite upset. I mean, you know, so what's our remedy, Don?
How about mattresses?
Well, that happened with your son, Michael, and he had photos.
Right.
Either it shrunk 4 inches, or they swapped it out.
You remember that, huh? Oh,
but the problem is, I mean, in the metaphor I use is you have a sledgehammer when all you need is a finish hammer.
Right, yeah.
I mean, the remedies clause in that contract is suing the seller for specific performance damages and attorney's fees. Right. Are you going to do it over a $400 television?
Right.
And go through a year's worth of litigation?
Yeah.
It's not a perfect document, but there is no such thing as a perfect document, and it's also a very legalistic document.
That's right.
So you got to have a team, which I think is very important.
It's very important. That's why you're part of it.
Well, and many brokers will tell you, call 3. Right. Well, all the successful realtors I know have a team.
That's right.
I mean, you can't guarantee their work. You can't guarantee that I'm going to do perfect work. I won't. I'm a human. We make errors. But with the sellers and the buyers, the contingencies, not having a step 2, the realtor staying in their lane. They don't make decisions on whether the buyer waives a financing contingency. They don't fill out the seller's disclosure.
That's right.
They shouldn't do the walkthroughs. They should get the inspection company to do the walkthroughs. It's a couple $100. It's not a big deal. If you're drafting language, call me, call whoever you use, and have the exit strategy. What happens if the roof isn't complete? What happens if whatever isn't complete, what is the remedy that you want to give your guy short of suing for specific performance? And then if you have a financing clause, try to remember that you got to get your insurance binder right away.
That's right.
Because if the roof is too old, or if you have a certain type of electrical panel, some insurance companies won't touch it. Make sure there's no furniture part of the contract if you have a financing clause. And warn your buyer that if they're going to want an escrow for any repair items, or if there's leases involved, that might be a problem with their loan.
That's
so
true. Just
because somebody has the right to do something under the contract, if they invoked all the rights, if a buyer invoked every single right they had under the contract, it wouldn't close.
Right.
You have a right to get a loan, okay. You also have a right to escrow if seller's repairs aren't done by closing. The lender's not going to like that.
No, they're not going to like that.
They don't want to see that you're escrowing $10,000 for holes in the roof.
Right. Yep.
They get a little excited over things like that. So from the for the realtor perspective, just prepare people, control people, use your time. If you're representing the seller and you have a buyer's election, take the whole 10 days to analyze the request. Have your people go out there and see whether or not whatever it is really broken. See if the estimate is actually legitimate. Make sure the buyer has their second deposit down before you respond. If you're on the seller side. So use the time that you're allotted in the contract. Don't be the one telling your client, if you have a financing contingency, you need to waive. You just say, this is what happens if you don't waive. The seller might terminate and sell it to somebody for more money. Exactly. So you decide whether you want to risk losing the deal or losing your deposit. It's in your call. And also, if I could, and I know I've hit this many times, try to use a local lender, at least somebody that you've worked with multiple times.
Right.
That you have some track record with, quite helpful. And not to be self-serving. If you have questions, because they're very legalistic, call me, call some lawyer. Hopefully other lawyers give out their cell numbers, and get a clear answer before you make your offer or accept an offer.
Exactly, and that's everything we do.
Yeah,
So
and we get closings done.
we get closings. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And thank you for tuning
Take
in.
care.
We'll see you next week. Thank you.
Yeah.